Welcome back to the Escape the Clock video series, an information series where I, the author of the Escape the Clock book, walks you through how to build your program to financial freedom and early retirement. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2. We're actually kicking off with a really important project right off the bat, which is expenses. Doesn't sound like the most exciting one. You might want to get right into those big investing strategies and things like that, and we will. I think what you'll see is this is one that's relevant to everyone. It's the backbone to good financial planning. Any financial advisor is going to ask you at least what you spend in a year to even talk to you. So you probably have already at least thought about this before. But also, it is one of those things that will catalyze success. In episode 1, I talked about this idea of an analogy of building kind of a fire to burn a rope. How investing is that accelerant to, being able to burn those logs, brighter and faster to get to that rope. Being able to take that rope down, make it lower, that makes everything easier. You need less logs, so less income. You need less, less time investing to reach it. So it's one of those things that, requires discipline, so it can be difficult. And at the very least in your project plan, you're going to want to analyze and understand your spending. Better yet, you'll build these great action plans to, improve behaviors based on some of the things we're going to talk about and get it under control. Because when you quit work, you might feel out of control sometimes. Like, wow, I don't have this paycheck coming in, hopefully passive income, but we'll get to that later. But anyways, you don't have that paycheck coming in, and market conditions they have these wild swings. Like sometimes stocks are down and the news is bad. It's usually always bad. But, you might start to feel, oh, am I going to be okay? Well, you have no control of the stock market. Not really. You should be leaving it alone most of the time anyways. But what you can control is how you spend. You can pull back on spending. Now, this is not a lesson in being frugal all the time. I actually don't believe in that. I believe you should spend. You should enjoy the money you've earned. You've earned it. You should enjoy life. It's about being mindful. So that's what this project is today. It's a mindful project on spending, understanding expenses so that we can accelerate or catalyze ourselves towards our goals as quickly as possible by having reasonable goals to hit. So I'm excited to go through this one. So let's jump into it. To build a project for expenses, first you need to scope it. And to scope it, we need some big questions or problems that we have to be solving for. In this case, it's all about spending. So how much money did you spend last year? The exact dollar number. That is actually something you can answer relatively easily. You have the credit card statements, you have your bank accounts, you can sum up all of your spending and you can actually see what your total expenditure was. How much are you going to spend by the end of this year? You actually can do the same exercise, but you don't know until the year is over how much you'll have spent. You might have a good idea as the year closes out, but until it's over, you won't really know. But what about next year, or in 5 years, or 10 years? Knowing how much we're going to spend can be much harder, but it is actually possible to get a pretty good estimate for it, especially if we are constantly looking at how we are spending and understanding what our spending goals are going to look like and start to model in things like inflation. We can actually get pretty close and start to have an idea of what a cost of living looks like. Cost of living is just your overall total number of spending for a year. And to be able to have an early retirement, we have to have a target cost of living in mind. It can change over time. And in Escape the Clock, I break it down into 2 different target cost of livings, one for an early retirement and then one for your full retirement. For now, just knowing what your current cost of living is will help us start to scope a goal in order to make some improvements. Costs are a part of life. They're also like the sludge in the engine slowing down our progress to financial independence. The more we can control our costs, the faster we can get going. And you know what I'm talking about. All those coffees and sandwiches, bus fare, clothes, all those things, even when they're on sale, they all add up. These are what we call cost of living expenses. And trust me, they can be sneaky. It's like that one app subscription you forgot to cancel, but it keeps charging you every month. Yes, Disney Plus, I'm looking at you. Your cost of living charges every year, especially after big life events, really shape your future outlook. For instance, you might be thinking about buying a house. You buy a house that you're really excited about. Maybe it's a little bigger than you really need, but you know what? It's a beautiful house. You're excited about it. Before you know it, you're filling it up with all this furniture and all these other things. And before you know it, your standards have gone up. Now you have to maintain all those things. And it can become a bit of a burden because as standards go up, it is very hard to while sleeping on an air mattress. But here's the deal. When your costs outpace your income, that's when trouble will start. Enter borrowing. every swipe of your credit card. It's like playing an arcade game, except instead of winning tickets for something, you're just winning debt. Yeah, I know, fun. So financial independence is like a ship. Debt is a giant hole in the hull. It will sink you faster than you can say minimum payment. Don't panic. There's lots of tools that we can do to patch the hole and keep sailing towards that financial freedom. And it all starts with a solid plan. It really comes down to getting those costs under your income, because when your income is higher than your costs, then we're flipping that delta of borrowing, which becomes debt, into something that we can actually save or grow. But really, we have two options here. We can increase the amount of income or money that we're making, which, let's be honest, is much easier said than done. Well, unless your dad is like president or something and is giving you a high paying job. Or you can lower your costs. It's still tough, but it's much more doable. Here's the magic part. When you cut costs, that extra cash becomes money you can save and invest and bring you closer to your early retirement goal. And when you're in that early retirement, being able to know that you can successfully cut costs allows you to ride through all of the rapids. So we have one big strategy, optimizing costs. And I'll share some practical tips to help you do that in future videos. You can think of it like a diet, but for your wallet. And when we get that right, we actually end up being able to make the more out of the money that we have. And when you do this right, you'll transform what I was calling the debt delta into a savings delta. What's the savings delta, you ask? Well, it's just something I made up, but I think it makes the point of the idea that as long as you're not spending on silly gift mugs that say things like favorite Funkle, that you're able to take that extra cash and make it work for you. That money isn't leaving your pocket. That money is being invested to become more money. Basically, this is where we stop treading water and we start really sailing towards our goals, cutting through the rapids, maximizing the amount of money you have to save because you've optimized your costs down to exactly the amount that creates a comfortable lifestyle for you. That is the way to have smooth sailing. Because when we don't do that, not only are we not moving quickly, we might actually start drifting backwards because debt is a real threat. Anytime we borrow, that will compound at a higher rate. That will start to sneak up and gnaw at our plan. And before we know it, even though we think we're saving because we are putting some money in a savings account, the net result is a debt delta, not a savings delta. So the more we stretch that savings delta, the more we ensure our costs are analyzed and under control, the more we can be sure that we are making real progress. Borrowing money comes with serious costs. And while sometimes unavoidable, each swipe will chip away at your savings. If you have too much debt, congrats, you have the debt delta on your hands and you're going to have to deal with it. That monster is a mega class. It's seriously, like, credit cards are tricky. They can charge anywhere between 15 and 40% interest. There is government legislation considering trying to cap what credit cards are legally allowed to charge. Imagine you could get that rate on an investment, just like a 15% rate on investment, just for sure. Everyone would do it. There'd be so much wealth in this country. Everyone would just be, there'd be no poverty because everyone would be getting a reasonable amount. Yet anyone can get a credit card and anyone can dance with that debt. Now, you might be thinking, I can't avoid it. To pay my bills, I have to use my credit card, and that's okay. Believe me, I've lived paycheck to paycheck most of my life, especially early days. I get it. But you have to be very serious when you consider that every time you borrow $1, you are paying for that privilege of borrowing that money. It costs more to borrow that money than it does to just spend that money. So step one, get rid of the debt that we already have, especially high interest credit card debt. Loans and mortgages can come later. If we can start to consolidate things down to lower interest areas, especially areas with decent rewards, now we're using borrowing strategically. If we can only put money on cards that we can actually afford to pay off, now we're actually optimized to benefit from borrowing. So if you're already in debt, don't even look at that card until it's paid off. Lock it in a vault, freeze it, something. We have to trap that debt monster. We got to get to a point where we can set full balance monthly payments, keep it locked away, regain control, and then build out savings delta. Which takes us to our project for today. Our project today is going to be focused on debt elimination because that is the biggest risk we need to manage. In a future video, I will go through cost control and cost optimization strategies. I know I already talked about that today, but don't worry, we'll get to it soon. First, we got to handle the debt situation because without that, optimizing costs all day long, that's great. You might make a little headway, but that will still get you. So what does the project look like? Our debt elimination project has a few key tasks to it. First one is to develop a strategy. This strategy can break into its own tasks, but to do this, you need to analyze your spending. Look at your credit card statements. What are you spending? Why did you spend it? What was your goal? Did you put it on there because you just happen to use your credit card all the time? Or do you actually go, oh, this is a rewards thing. I'm eligible for something. I'm going to get mileage for this thing. Can you afford to pay it off? You should be asking yourself some clear questions because your goal is to set some boundaries. If it's a high interest card, you should get rid of it. If you're not sure it's a high interest card, it probably is. Go ahead and look up online what different rates are. If you're paying in the high 20%, you're paying likely too much. I'm sure you can find a better card with a better rate. You can open a new card too easily. You can start to move balances between these things. As soon as you take all of that money off that high interest card and put it on a lower interest card, you've already made your situation better. So that gets us to our next task, paying off that high interest credit card. You might want to start saving money. You might want to invest. You might be really excited about your financial independent future, but until that high interest credit card's gone, you are just leaking gas. We got to patch that. So make that your P0, your high priority, your number one, your thing you're going to do first. Start putting as much as you can stomach into paying that thing to zero. Get it to zero and then cancel it. If you can't cancel it, at least freeze the account. You can actually freeze and unfreeze accounts very easily. Once you freeze the account, you don't have to worry about getting hacked, and you can make sure that transactions aren't hitting it and surprising you. But as soon as you pay that thing off, now you've hit an important milestone, which is a success metric in your program, which is your high interest debt is now at zero. Don't worry if you have a mortgage. We'll talk about that later. It'll be a special project for that. But for now, get rid of the high interest debt and then think about your other remaining forms of debt. Look at it. Look at your loans. Look at all your things. Do we need to get to zero? Some debts are good debt. For instance, if you have a school loan, you might think, I need to get rid of this thing. But that might not be too bad, especially if it's like at 2 or 3%. It's not too bad. You have time. Eventually, before retirement, yes, you want all the debt gone. 100%, even the house mortgage, all of it gone. But here, to start with, get rid of the damaging stuff. Start to consolidate down. Have a strategy. I only use my bank account for these transactions. I use my credit card for these transactions, and so on. Avoid taking new loans. Avoid adding to a credit card if you don't need to. Be mindful about how you swipe. And most importantly, set up automatic payments. Different credit cards have different ways. Some will let you set up minimum payments automatically, some full statement, last statement, full balance. You'll have to go and see what you're allowed to do. But if you have a full balance or at least full last statement option, do it, because now you know that anything you put on there will be paid off. You'll never pay interest. Now you can safely borrow to get the rewards from the credit card, and you don't have to worry about paying for that privilege of borrowing that, and you're building credit. And by the way, building credit, it's easy to damage your credit, but building it is just about not being late on your payments. So borrow some money and always pay it off. Builds great credit. Your credit score will be great, and you can go take a free credit score and see it if you don't believe me. For along, you'll accomplish these milestones. You'll be in a healthy debt-free situation. Before you know it, you are going to be a very net positive net worth individual and be able to do a lot with the money you have left over. And there you have it. We have a debt reduction and elimination plan, which might seem obvious to you, and that's fine. You might have very little or no debt. If so, congratulations. You statistically are in a very small group of people, but most people have debt, most. And some people have substantial debt. So this could be a really important project, maybe the most important project in your entire program. Because even if you don't decide to go for financial independence, early retirement, just being debt-free will just increase your overall life comfort, less stress, less worry. This just requires a little bit of a plan to reduce, put some guardrails up to keep it off, and then live a happy life. So next time, we'll go into even more ways to hack your lifestyle, control your costs, pay off things like mortgages, just so that we can get into the really great categories of all that money left over. We're going to be able to turn that into substantial generational wealth we can live on comfortably for the rest of our years. See you then. Reminder, I'm a retired program manager, not a financial planner or a fiduciary. All the information presented here and in the Escape the Clock book is expected to be reviewed with a certified professional. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Support the show by visiting escapetheclock.com, where you can find the guide, the planner, and more episodes. If you need help with building or running your program, you can schedule help at the site. If you, a friend, or loved one is feeling trapped by work or money, let them know about escapetheclock.com. Remember, time is your most valuable asset. Start living life on your terms and escape the clock.